All right, now, and one of the things that's making us poorer will be the price of electricity this coming winter. Yesterday, from one of our correspondents, I received an email that suggests that Genesis are going to increase their line charges. This is Genesis going to increase their line charges by 33%. And this is a well-heeled middle-class gentleman hailing from Wellington who can well afford it, but is struggling to understand how a 33% increase in line charges can possibly be justified. And although he might be able to afford it, throughout New Zealand, that scenario duplicated will lead to extreme issues, cost of living issues, for large numbers of Kiwis, particularly in cold climates, but throughout the country. Joining us to talk about that is Gavin Evans, who is, I have to say, the group editor of Freeman Media. He's previously been an editor or overseen Energy News, Inside Resources and Capital Letter. I really liked Capital Letter. And he joins us now to talk about why, what could be done about it, and if we are being systematically fleeced by our power companies in this country. And Gavin joins us now. Gavin, welcome to the show. Good morning to you. Lovely to have you on. Well, I would if he was there. Perhaps you could turn him on, thanks. I don't. Okay, well, he's not on because I'm not talking to him. So I'll just let Josh go and sort that out. Matt says New Zealand was its wealthiest in the 1920s. We were the wealthiest country in the world on a per capita basis. Really? I'd be very surprised by that, Matt. I think 1960s I thought was the golden age for New Zealand, but I could be wrong. I'll try Gavin again. Gavin, welcome to the show.
Good morning,
are you there?
Mike.
I don't know what happened there. I was talking to nobody. Nice to have you on. Listen, help me. I got an email yesterday, in actual fact, from somebody, as I've just explained, where line charges for Genesis Energy are going to rise by 33%. And my understanding is that despite the Commerce Commission being meant to be protect consumers in this country and businesses for that matter, and ensuring competition, that they've pretty much agreed to increase revenue to significant limits across Transpower, the National Grid Company, as well as local lines companies as well. Obviously, Genesis is one of them. Is there any hope that we might get some sanity in the electricity market anytime soon?
Yeah, I think there's two things happening at the moment here, Mike. There's obviously the lines component of these bills is going up in a big way. Also, electricity retailers like Genesis, they are passing on higher generation costs, which they've been holding back on for the last couple of years, because electricity costs, the cost of actually generating juice, have gone up a lot in the past few years just because of the shortage of gas, and also the shortage of water that we've had for 2 years running now. But the lines charges, they are a big increase. What the Commerce Commission does is it looks every 5 years, it tries to reset the prices for the sector, and both Transpower and the distributors have a lot of spending plan, and that's really to try and get in front of two things. There's been a lot of housing growth in some of the big centres, Bay of Plenty, Auckland, Queenstown Way, that all requires new lines and things to be built, and also the increasing demand for electricity as people, hook up EVs, they want to put more solar on the roofs. All of that takes more management, and there's a lot of investment going into smarter systems to try and make all that work. The other thing that's happened this time around is that if you think about it, the 5 years we've got coming, interest costs are going to be a lot higher than they were in the 5 years just gone. And when you look at the price increases that are coming from the lines companies, a big chunk of it is just that rise in interest costs. And then they're facing the same sort of inflation costs that everybody else is seeing, like insurance. The cost of building anything has just gone through the roof post-COVID. It's not as bad as it was, But that's, there's still a lot of strain out there if you're trying to get anything built, and that all goes into cost, unfortunately.
When the electricity market was deregulated by the national government in the late 1990s, mid-late 1990s, we were meant to be getting competition that, and the aim of that competition was to keep power prices competitive and, as you know, relatively low. That was the whole point of it. What happened? Why did it all go wrong?
For a long time, it worked quite well. You saw a lot of investment going into wind and geothermal, upgrades of existing hydro stations. There were new gas-fired power stations built. There's been quite a bit built, but the wheels kind of fell off in 2018. If you look at where power prices have gone since then, they've just been moving steadily higher. And that's because we've actually been progressively becoming shorter and shorter of energy in this country. We were warned in 2018.
So does that mean we're using more and producing less in comparative terms?
There is a little bit of growth in electricity demand now. It had been very flat for a long time, but we are seeing some growth in demand now. But we were warned in 2018 that our gas supplies were starting to get tight, and people started investing. People were drilling, and they had plans to, keep eking out some more gas, but it just hasn't worked. The former government did a lot of things that discouraged gas investment, and the geology was just really bad for us. The decline in gas production was a lot steeper than people thought, and now we're short of gas. We're importing probably 1 million tonnes of coal this year to keep the lights on. And the electricity guys are, building wind farms and building solar projects and things probably as fast as they can. But it's a bit late. We kind of bet the house on a belief that we could just manage our gas supplies down on a nice, smooth approach, and we'd have about a decade to do it. And
why are we managing our gas supplies down? Is this just for purely Kyoto Protocol and Paris Accord reasons, is it?
Yeah, that's largely the policy driver. Once, when the former government decided that we were going to, they were going to discourage gas development, and we were going to have 100% renewable electricity by 2030, that just sends a signal to people, don't bother drilling for gas, and don't build any peaking power stations. And we built one peaking power station early in the piece, but plans for the others are just sitting idle because A, you got no ability to get a return on those assets in such a short time, and B, now there isn't sufficient gas to even run them. So it's not. I mean, there is gas out there, but how do you encourage people to start investing again? And once they start investing, it actually takes years to get these things underway.
But that's the issue, isn't it? So if I'm thinking in terms of, because it was the issue that came up at the investment conference that was hosted by the Prime Minister for the international investors. And the issue they raised was, for want of a better word, sovereignty. The suggestion that, you might have this policy now, but once the Labour-led administration with their strong green outriders get into power, they will, and there was also the threat from Te Pāti Māori as well, they will end your investment compulsorily for environmental purposes, ostensibly. So I'm assuming that any international investor into gas at the moment, for example, or even national investor, would be going, I'm not going to do it because I don't know what's going to happen next year at the election or in 3 years' time after that.
Yeah, that's right. That is a huge problem now. We used to always have quite a bipartisan approach to energy policy.